This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
So, welcome, folks, to the Monday, June 5th, 2023 meeting of the Easthampton Energy Advisory Committee. I am Jamie Pocket, the chair of the committee, joined by committee members John Pepe and Connie Dawson. We're also joined by Mayor LaChapelle and a couple members of the public. First order of business will be a quick review and approval of the May 1st, 2023 meeting minutes.
And I have to say, I had the wrong date on what I sent you. I just sent it out a
I saw
revised
the
version.
revised version, so
We're gonna agree on the date.
we can agree on the date.
So
Yeah, anything
I
else?
move that we accept the minutes.
All right, we have a move to accept the minutes. Do we have a second? Second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion approved. Minutes are approved.
And I think we're doing, and thanks to you, Connie, we're doing an excellent job relative to some committees. Not to be mentioned here, everybody, about getting minutes done and.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Those are approved to submit to the city clerk. All right, public speak time. We do have Bruce Swoles, right? That's right.
Yep.
Joined us the last time as well.
Well, it feels like I co-opted the meeting last time, so
Oh.
I called pass this time. See
That's
what
fine. We'll
comes up.
talk about some of the stuff that you were interested in specifically, for sure. And then also joining us today, your name is.
Stephen Litsky.
Hi, Stephen.
I don't need to.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
I-
fine, but welcome. Thank you for joining us. I think I did see your name in my email inbox today, so we'll touch on some of the things related to that. So first off, committee updates. The mayor has joined us. One of the things I was going to just mention is obviously there's the three of us right now as a full membership of the committee. We do have a few openings. We've mentioned this to Bruce already before. But if you have ideas on recruitment or people that might be interested in joining our committee, we do have a bit going on. We have a dedicated staff for membership of 3 here, but certainly room for more. And then from your side, energy-wise, any updates that you'd like to provide on initiatives, things going on in the city?
Yeah, so immediately, and I just was texting her, Cassie, and I got invited. The National League of Cities has different convenings around the country on different topics, and I've gone to a couple. Tomorrow is one specifically on resilient cities. It's the 7th annual one that they've pulled together. I haven't been. It's in Falmouth for starts late tomorrow afternoon, goes through Thursday at the end of business. There's about it's really high intensity. Let's say 15 elected officials, and then folks from different government agencies, as well as some of the folks who've been working with the state and federal on bigger projects and whatnot, and to kind of walk through with us the good, the bad, the indifferent, and make some sense of the upcoming legislation and whatnot. So that, Cassie and I are going to that. They always ask you to bring somebody else who's a municipal employee. I thought it was I talked to Jeff, great opportunity for Cassie. She's really excited. So we'll head down to Falmouth.
This is tomorrow?
It's tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay.
How are they defining resilient? So what does that cover?
Anything that you can get a grant for, really.
It's all about
yeah.
the funding.
Yeah, it's all about the funding, and it's about, and it ends up to be not, I don't want to say straight lobbying, but like one of our big, and it's a session, is capacity. I was doing a couple of examples on, I was on another Zoom, around cars and making up the edge. And so, right now, if you go to buy an EV, that's not made in the States, you get $7,000 directly off that car. Well, that's a big difference. Actually, 75. And Massachusetts just up to 3,500 direct rebate. Well, who knows that? Like, nobody, unless you're Wong. Probably Steve knows that.
I know that.
Yeah. So, right. Well, that's about to change. So soon will be.
What do you mean?
It'll change. So soon it'll be any electric car, regardless of where it's made, will
Oh.
have that ability if that's what you check, if that's what you choose through the bipartisan infrastructure bill. So they're thinking the update we got was by July 1st that would be true. So a question to us municipal officials at this conference is, does that make a difference for your residents? Does it make a difference for your businesses? Does it make a difference for your city? Now, if I could get $10,000 plus on municipal vehicles when I flip them to EVs, that would be a big difference for us. You know, and so that's like an example of like, do you know this is coming up? What difference would it make? Also, Cassie, who's heading up the climate action plan, that's just in the beginning. There's a lot of folks who have done those there that have attached to the upcoming federal legislation, and that's a really big deal for us too, because the capacity to go after federal money is like that big. So we'll be trying to, I want to identify the non-competitive grants and regional grants, which, and there, the federal region is the whole region for the Department of Highway, Federal Department of Highways, which, you know, is all the New England states kind of, and then region like Western Mass and Central Mass. And one of the ideas was, should there be a regional or a statewide program to link into the ESS bikes? So city and blue bikes are all over the rest of the state, and they're not in Western Mass, and they're massive. They're in New York City, they're, you know, everywhere. So let's not go with a loan, you know, who knows what the RFP process was back there, but, you know, let's not just go with the one we had. Will blue bike just come out 90. Yeah. And I don't know what the Connecticut bike share to do the 91, but so one of our big pushes right now among the communities that lost bike share is exactly that. That's one of our big things, because we feel they could get up to speed. But also at this conference, it's like if every 6 or 7 communities have an agreement with an e-bike provider, is the more savings if it's a bigger thing, you know, like we buy into state contracts for salt. And that's another big of like, what does like somewhat independent group buying does, you know, and it doesn't have like, doesn't mandate us to, you know, get 500 bikes or something, right? So those are the kind of questions we're looking at. There is a big technical conference like that happens in DC that is going to occur, I think, this summer. And municipal officials and people on boards go to that. And also National League of Cities has a little part of it. You know, candidly, it's far too technical for me. But they'll bring what we do here to that conference and say, this is a really great idea for you that know, you know, the engineering of it, but it's not going to work for Easthampton because they're not going to be able to sign up for 500 bikes just in Easthampton. You know, so
that conference is specifically around bike programs, or no?
It's around EVs.
EVs. Okay.
We have a couple of city councilors, Connie Denham and Omar Gomez, that taken on the idea of an electric kind of trolley that Plymouth has, and where they started around. Plymouth did a pilot last year, mostly tourism, a little bit helping seniors or just helping kids get to jobs. And this summer they're expanding that part of it So we're planning, and you're welcome all. Connie wants to go on a field trip to ride the trolleys. So at some point, I go, sure. Yeah,
Well, no, I was gonna ask
Yeah.
a question about what kind of trolleys are we talking about? Something that's hooked to hardwired in, or are we talking about just electric
and
buses?
just electric buses.
Okay, so it's really talking about electric bus system.
They look like trolleys. That's
Okay.
what got
So
Connie's.
it's
Yeah.
kind of gimmicky.
So-
Now that we just ripped out and turned it into like that.
Right, I know, I know.
So one of the
Here we
things
are.
that Bruce actually brought up to us last week was the whole issue of the kind of electric
Church.
charging that we have, and that we really, in order for people to really adopt
Mhm.
EVs, we should have the level 3 charges because they charge so much faster, but they're horribly expensive. And I would think that would be something that we'd need if we had those kind of trolleys as well.
So we have level 3 for municipal electric cars.
Oh, in
Yeah.
Easthampton?
Yeah, but not for public. And
Oh.
the level 2 chargers cost us so much money. That's another really
Right.
big issue.
Yeah, Cassie walked us through that
Yeah,
last time.
it's
yeah.
amazing. We're so upside down on that. I mean, we're not going to get. I mean, I would love to know how much we actually get because if it's not that much, I'd rather just make them free.
Right.
And it would be again.
Right.
But we're kind of looking at that. The other thing we're looking at is just doing level 1 long-term chargers for municipal employees who have electric vehicles who would park here for 6 hours and would actually get some benefit for it. And just put a bank over there. We can get the grant money to put in as many level 2 and 3 chargers as we possibly could fit. We do not have the budget, especially with electricity going up, to actually carry that debt. And we've not yet seen numbers. Like it will take.
Wait, say that one. We have what do we have, but we don't have the money?
What I heard is, and I'm confused, is
What-
we have grant money to get as many chargers as we want, second, and
We can't afford to operate them.
to
To
operate.
operate it.
Yeah.
Those would be on municipal property
Yeah,
specifically.
yeah. I mean,
So why aren't you charging for, like the?
oh, we are. We're
Right.
charging right now more than any other city in town. We still lose money because of the distribution charges.
Because it's so much higher out here than it is closer to Boston.
I mean, there was a law just passed that gets rid of those charges for municipalities.
Yeah.
We don't know when it goes into effect. Maybe that changes that.
And you can get the level 3, because I heard that the funding for those was within a mile of the freeway.
No, we have level 3s now.
And
But
that-
not for.
Which are the ones at the
grants.
police
Yeah.
station or?
Grants first.
Yeah, we could get level 3s for our parking lot or over we chose not to because of the expense. And we thought more people, most people, level 2 is okay.
Well, I have an EV, and those level 2s are a real pain, because you basically get about 25 miles per hour.
Mm-hmm.
So for somebody who's commuting to Springfield and doesn't have a charger, it's really sort of problematic. So it does seem that the more it gets utilized, the more EVs they are, the more demand they will be. But if you can't make the numbers work at a level 2.
Right now we can't, but I'm hoping that.
So it's possible that the electricity will not cost as much as time goes on, and then the city would be able to install more.
Yeah.
And the grant money is through which program? Through like state or federal or both? Both.
I want to say that the level 3s are all federal
Yeah.
because we got money through the federal government towards the 2 Teslas, and we had to choose if it was going to the car or the chargers. And if we put them on the chargers because we did, but the other kind of, we're also just talking about a lot of cities, is that there are companies in bigger cities who are coming in and they're buying everybody's chargers, like ChargePoint, they're buying them out and buying out the city contract and trying to see if they can, and we would pay a flat fee in.
Right.
We would very much be interested in that. Like we've already said,
Yeah.
if somebody's doing that, we want to know what it costs. Because we would like to add more chargers, And I think during this adoption phase, which I hope is short, but it won't be, the closer we can get to cheap charging, the better. I mean, I would, if we could work out a deal with Eversource, that we meet certain goals for cars charging on municipal lots, regardless if they're private or municipal, and then they get, it's less cost to get them to juice. We would take a pilot, we would take a payment in lieu of charge, like we do with some of our solar. I mean, it's not a moneymaker, but at least we know this is what we have to do. It helps me get the department heads to switch to electric. Some of the employees are already looking at it. So, but it's a moving target. I mean, I just found out that all EVs were going to be available for that
Right.
7,000. I was,
Something must have happened in Washington on that, because that was the thing that Joe Manchin was blocking in
Yeah.
the IRA, was to allow foreign-made EVs to be eligible for that 3,500 out of that 75.
Well,
Half of that 75.
I had heard that if they're leased, they're eligible.
Yeah.
I didn't know purchases.
the lease is that, right, it's 4,500 to buy. So the idea is you lease, you do 3 payments, and then you refinance. And you get the 75, and then you buy the car to stave off the residual value.
How long do we
That's
have
what
you
I'm
for here today, Mayor? We're ranging around with different questions. I don't know if you finished your presentation. We're bouncing around.
I was just
questions.
giving, I mean, I can,
No, this is just
Some of the stuff, some of the stuff, depending on how long the mayor's going to be here,
right.
is going to come up in an organized fashion under different agenda items. But
Yeah.
we don't know.
I have until 4:15.
All right. Well, I mean, that's a good overview of stuff that you all are working on in other departments and kind of across the board. You know that the planning department especially is very good about identifying opportunities for funding and going after them. And the electric trolley thing was interesting. Certainly, it's something to put on our. What's that?
Is that going to go to all the breweries?
I don't know. Do you think
There used to be a bicycle.
there?
Yes.
Oh, right. That was that was some source of some friction, I believe. Do you want to jump into another more like EV, like
Can I just bring up
stuff
one
now?
about a grant?
Sure.
Are you aware of grants that are available because we are a city? I'm looking for the term that's used. We're an energy committee because Easthampton directly adjoins a census tract qualifying coal closure. Are you aware of these grants? Oh, you are? Okay, good.
We are.
Because we were at a meeting
Yeah.
and we were told about it, and I just wanted to be sure. I figured you probably knew, but I just
Yeah,
wanted to
no,
be sure.
those are, we've been looking at those and the money, and they're very on, gateway cities get the preference.
Okay.
But we're still eligible.
Okay, I
It's
just wanted to
yeah.
be sure you knew
Oh,
about
no.
it. I don't know anything about it other than that, but I just got so. Okay.
Yeah, I won't.
Great, that's good news. Okay.
All right, we'll stick through the agenda here. There's going to be some other things that
Yep.
sort of come back around to what you
I will
talked
be
about and
concise.
some other
It's not you, it's
issues.
us.
Yeah, right.
a bad
We do our best to stay on task here. All right, so the next thing was a summary of our EDIC meeting. I did sit in the spirit of like bringing committees together. They invited me and Cassie to their meeting a couple weeks ago. So I got to sort of update them on things that were going on here, hear some things from their perspective. Talk a little bit about the climate action plan, how that's going to bring some business concerns, to light, or ideas that may come up around that, things that might make things attractive to businesses and economic development within the city. Talk to them a little bit about aggregation, which we'll touch on here. There wasn't anything too concrete that came out of it, more just a chance for us to be together and talk through and just sort of stay on the same page with what's going on, and they know that they can come to us with ideas or anything that crops up around those things. So I think it's a good thing. I think there's more and more where committees and are sharing information and trying to talk to each other a little bit more, so that we're we're aware of what's going on.
Mhm.
So that is my very short summary.
They didn't have anything that they updated you about?
I mean, I heard some of the updates on I have to probably look back at the minutes from that. That was a busy day.
Wasn't,
If you wanna send them to
the
me,
notes of
send them-
preceding the meeting, the notes said something about they wanted to talk to us, I thought, about the gas, the gas
True, we
ban,
did talk
whatever,
about the gas
connection
connection. Yes, we did talk about the gas connection ban, because there's no chance of that being overturned anytime soon, and it does affect businesses' ability to come in to the city, because of certain ones, especially things like restaurants and things like that may have a definite need for gas.
unless we can convince chefs that they don't have to cook with gas.
That's true, but that's probably about the last people you're going to convince. You certainly convince homeowners sooner than chefs. But yeah, it was there's not a lot of resolution there, right? We're just kind of stuck with the landscape that we have right now, which is that if you can get a space that has gas hookup, great,
Right.
you got it. But even then, it has to have been within a year, I think, right? Because if there's more than a year lapse, then the gas company does not then have to renew.
You can go back to your original BTU limit letter,
Okay.
regardless of the number of years. Adhesive Applications did this. They had a letter from 2015.
Okay.
It said this was the maximum BTUs they could have with efficiencies. They were able to reconnect to gas because it was below that, and they got into it was not easy to do,
Right.
but they did. They were allowed to do that. They had to do propane while they were battling it out, but they're back on gas. And I think that there's another business on Route 10 that's looking to
Yeah,
pull
that's what
gas.
they were talking about, right?
Yeah.
In the old flooring center there, or whatever. Yeah.
That East Haven hot tubs. So-
Yeah, right. East Haven, they did mention.
So it looks like the gas company might let them do that.
that. Okay.
But I haven't heard, they just asked us if we had an objection, and I was like, it's safe,
Right.
you want it.
Well, I mean, I think we have an objection because we don't want to encourage companies to be using gas. We want everyone to be switching to electricity.
I'm not gonna start that conversation today in this meeting, but and I'm not trying to be, but I'm very serious about that. So there are a lot of things about building code and one
Yeah.
of the big pools of grant money out there are around adopting zoning and things around solar and as well as being able, instead of to give, Ferry Street has a tax incentive.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bond. We give them, they basically pay flat taxes for 35 years, maybe 50 years. We still get some taxes at the end. Once it comes to full value, we get the regular tax payment plus another 5,000 a year. There is now a way to give that money up front, that tax cash from the city to the development as it goes, rather than having to do a very complicated, difficult district improvement plan. But that said, there's a long checklist of what you have to do. It's not just and the next year, 10% of our common electricity will be solar. It's you have to show in the plans. It's very interesting. I have not read a lot about it, but to not have to pay interest on a bond over 35 to 50 years is something I'd love to see.
Okay. So that sort of coming back to the gas question, how does that relate to that? And I guess to get into a whole thing, but
solar, wind, and they're also talking about butane.
Okay.
Adding butane.
Yeah, I mean, I think generally speaking, electrification is the way things are going. Right now, the reality is that certain things still, gas is still preferable for certain things, not necessarily from a climate standpoint. Well, from an efficiency standpoint, or I think a place like East Haven or a restaurant would be well, we know how to do this. We need this level of producing.
Yeah.
Chime in.
I have a commercial building, and the first time around, the gas was available. And we put an addition on. I wanted to switch to I wanted to put in electric heat pumps, but scale-wise, they were saying.
When was that?
The first building went up in 2008.
Okay,
The
'cause
addition
I think the technology
Let
has
me
changed.
finish your
since then.
thought.
Yeah,
Anyway.
so in 2016, it was still problematic.
That's interesting.
So one question, is this regulated by a city? You get an X amount of BTUs, or it's all about individual?
It's individual, the individual business applies and they get the
It's
letter,
individual accounts.
right?
So
It's between the business and Eversource, not the
Yes.
city.
Right.
Right, and Columbia Gas used to write very generous BTU letters. So because it was product straight, you can use your Columbia Gas letter with a generous BTU limit with Eversource, and as long as you hang on long enough, they'll give it to you. This is your
Yeah,
expiration.
it's an interesting time because, I certainly agree with what you're saying, but then, all the electricity rates are going crazy
Mhm.
because there's more demand.
That's true.
And and the more, then the infrastructure has to catch up. It's a little bit like the EV stuff, but there's chicken and egg things going on here. Like, you need the infrastructure to support the vehicles, but you want to
Right.
prompt people to buy
And
the
that's why
vehicles,
the opt-in code has the option of buildings that still use fossil fuels, but they have to be set up so that all the wiring is there for
Mhm.
electricity instead of having to revamp, 10 years down the road and
Right.
at some major expense to get all these businesses switched over to electricity.
Yeah.
And to me, that's one of the primary reasons that the opt-in code is important to adopt, for that very reason, because companies are still going to be building and using fossil fuels, but there has to be a recognition for the future, and they have to start setting things up so the transfer can be easy and not expensive in the
Right.
future.
But Eversource would then also say, like, well, the more demand you're going to put on, we have to create all this upgraded infrastructure.
Yes, they do,
To
and the
support
state's
all
going
of
to
this.
have to support that. That's true.
So the
Yeah.
federal money supports that.
Right.
Right.
There are billions of dollars right now when you look at it, but it's businesses. There's not businesses can go directly for it.
Mhm.
I don't know what the state program is, but they're all federal dollars.
Right.
Yeah, I think you were talking about
State's still
infrastructure.
figuring
Weren't you
it out.
talking about the infrastructure for how the electricity
Transmission.
is transmitted? I mean, that's where we do
Well,
have.
there's
a
that higher
backup.
level stuff too. Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
talking about that, like
I mean, that
the
happens
higher
now, though,
voltage
with
stuff. Right.
Residential solar, to say your transformer, and it's on you to get the study done. So they have money now where federal money pays for that. Like if they say it's going to cost $100,000 for you to do it,
Right.
there's a grant for that. Is what the description says. Yeah, I was just going through. I can send it to you. It's kind of like Cliff Notes for the bipartisan infrastructure bill that Senator Markey's office put together,
Oh, yeah.
That'd be
and
great.
it's much easier to read.
Yeah. No, that's great because it is such
Yeah.
it's crazy
Yep.
to try to figure all that stuff
Yeah.
out and know that it's so much of it has to filter through the states.
I'll also
To
look for
create
the
these things,
dashboards are starting to come out
Yeah.
where you can put in the federal sites and it comes up.
Right. Yeah. I know because there are existing ones, and as more of these programs actually get fleshed out.
Is that on the individual level? Like if you're applying for that, is that all individuals have to wait through that?
Okay, so my understanding is, as of whenever DPU says, that not number of, all right, so AC and DC, right? So isn't there, when you say your solar array is so big, I mean, is this number, do you use DC or AC?
Direct.
Usually
Right,
use
right.
DC for
Like
sizing.
a rooftop
yeah.
solar, it's.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's always been a workaround where you get your DC, right? And then when they say you're going to be a competitor because it's so big, you recalculate an AC. And then you can get it in. That's how I got a huge array. Starting soon, that's irrelevant. That if you're a residential customer, there's no, I mean, I'm sure there is a limit, but you can purposely build your array bigger than based on that
Mhm.
and not get charged, and it kicks off your distribution charge. Again, DPU adopted that. It's from the feds. Eversource already uses it in other states. That's what we just learned at MMA. So I mean you're literally, I'm giving you like the tweet version. I hate to
Yeah.
but
Because they used to refer to that as you take a haircut.
Yes, exactly,
You know,
exactly,
if you-
exactly.
If you wanna
Yeah.
put up more,
Right.
go for it, but you're not gonna get the return.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So if they're allowing for that.
yeah. Yeah, I use it for my rental properties. I just push it to my tenants. So
I mean, the problem is it's really difficult to wade through all that stuff.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
You know, I don't.
I'm gonna suggest that we keep moving on.
Yeah, we're gonna
No,
do it, but
I-
I just,
I'm sorry to say that, but
No,
we
no,
have a lot
I'm-
of separate
no, we wanna get to
Mhm.
everything and like, it's good. The thing in here about the abuse committee, there's no update on that, other than that I will be the member from this
Yeah,
committee,
thank you.
taking that on for the time being. I already confirmed
bless
that
you.
with Barbara. She just asked me to reconfirm it after today's meeting, so somebody else volunteering. On municipal aggregation, all right, we do have an update here and a good one, and they're relatively quick. So just a couple weeks ago, the city solicitor got on with the lawyer from Good Energy, as well as representatives there, and the mayor and myself, and hashed through the red lines in the contracts that we had been discussing with them. So at this point, I think everything's been hashed out, and we've got agreement on pretty much everything. And
I sent you the final document
right,
to be
so the
signed,
final document is now there. So the contract is going to be executed
probably this week.
this week, at which point that's a major milestone.
Excellent, that's wonderful.
And so then we get to move on to the next part, which is starting to create the aggregation plan and start to work through the public, notification of that, and working with DOER first
Yeah.
on that part of things. So we'll be setting that up. I will let the members of the committee know. We'll probably maybe set up a separate meeting with Good Energy to start talking through that once everything's executed and ready.
And just very quick,
Yeah.
when you start doing that with Good Energy
Mhm.
and you start working with DOER,
Mhm.
let me know or my office know who your DOER person is.
Okay.
Because every city, I'm hoping they'll just assign the Easthampton's one who knows what's going on, but if they don't, we want to get the project switched to our Easthampton person.
Okay.
So, and
Do
it
you,
helps.
do you know who that is off the top? Okay.
But I just
Yeah,
want,
Cassie
and
may.
everybody's changing right now with the new governor.
Right.
So it's always good to confirm, but
Okay. And maybe they know, maybe Good Energy would know to ask that
yeah.
up front, so maybe we can make sure
Yeah.
they do that.
Mhm.
So yeah, putting the plan together, Steve, actually, I think he emailed stuff about from the city of Newton, which you
Yeah.
had shared. So
Mhm.
their current aggregation community, and they are just now, I think, they're announcing their new rates.
Yep.
I think they're
Yeah.
which are, or actually they weren't announcing new rates, but they were touting the fact that their rates are significantly lower, even than the lower summertime Eversource rates. Because the contract they locked in however many years ago, even at 100% renewables, is cheaper than like the regular fuel mix from Eversource. And that's just down to they signed a contract at a good time, predicting that prices would go up, and they did, and they're locked into that. And so they were touting that for their community. Again, one of the things that we have to be very careful is we cannot guarantee savings. The aggregation process cannot guarantee any savings. But once we lock in a contract, those prices are good for however long we do that for. And the idea is that likely over the long term they will end up being cheaper as rates go up, especially during winter time. So that'll be a primary concern as we're going through this process. Once we get to that point of shopping around for pricing and contracts, looking at what the options are, what the percentage mixes that we want, 100% renewable option, a 50% renewable, 25%, whatever the various things may be. So we'll be working through that with them and soliciting those sort of bids once we get through the initial part of the process and get the approvals going. So one step at a time, but a big step done to have all the lawyers agree on everything.
as much as they
As
can.
much as they can agree. Yeah, that was a fun
Yeah.
meeting to sit through because they were
You mentioned something quickly.
policing language and things.
One was a question, what's the term that the Newton plan locks in rates from the green energy supplier? It said long term.
The contracts?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean you can set it. You can.
but they have one
They have
locked
one
in. I'm just
locked
wondering
in.
how long the outside possibilities are for term of those.
That's a good question. I mean, most
I
places
think
are.
they'd be reluctant to lock in for, I don't know, more
Well,
than 5
yeah, right.
years.
It's the
but-
balance. I think the balance between they want the guaranteed income
Yeah,
versus like what's the volatility for them. I mean, those companies are they make
Right,
their
and
money
what the
figuring
mix
that
is,
out.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
So my assumption is that like 3 years is kind of like the longer end of the spectrum. There, so like, we probably want to try to look at a 3-year contract. If we get something longer term that we felt really good about, maybe, but I don't know. We'll have to see what's on offer.
The other thing is just to mention, I'm sure people saw in the Gazette about Westhampton's aggregation plan that's at a phase of doing, it's at a phase where they're doing public comment on it, I guess, and they had a URL link in the newspaper article about a place you can go to review the structure and all the parts of the plan, the different options that are available for the public. It's kind of cool.
The other thing that's just happened is Pelham, Amherst, and one other, Belchertown maybe, have finally been able to develop
Community.
an aggregation plan that is for more than one city,
Right.
which is really, they've been working on that for years
Right.
because the negotiations, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
I forget do you know what the other city
Could be
is?
Shrewsbury.
Shoots, I don't know. But anyway, I know
Probably the ones
it's
that are
Pelham
part
and
of-
Amherst, and there's one other, I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah. I guess.
But that's, because they're gonna get low rates, because the bigger
Bigger.
you are, the lower your rates. So
Sure.
that's something we can aspire to maybe eventually.
Well, interesting that West End is doing. If you have that link, send it to me because I
Okay.
actually didn't see that.
Okay.
I missed that link.
Would you send it to both of us?
I'll put it onto the committee.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. I'm interested to see what they have because that's going to be very soon for us as the public comment period and getting all that, getting the word out.
Okay.
And speaking of which, I thought before about maybe doing a press release around this. Maybe like when we finalize the contract with Good Energy, do a press release. I don't know if that would something we should write or work with Lindsay to put together.
Lindsay can help you put together. I mean, I think yes, just that we're, that we've executed the contract, but I think it also would be helpful an abbreviated timeline. So
Yeah.
this is, and so people, we get it out there in people's heads. It surprised me the back end analytics of our website, how many people go into press releases and kind of catch up on them.
Oh, really?
So if,
Good to know.
yeah, just so they know, folks generally know, like our
Yeah.
expectations, these are the next steps.
Okay, so we'll map that out with them
Yeah.
maybe, and then
But,
before
yeah,
we
we're
put the
happy to
press
do that.
release out. Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. Good. Well, that's the aggregation update. Move on. Speaking of press releases, to the climate action plan, because there was a press release out with the survey. Finally, as we did get one more chance to provide comment on the survey to Cassie last week. I think we were all pretty happy with it in the end, and so that's now officially live and can be out there for the public and businesses to respond to. So I don't know exactly what the period of time is for how long the survey is going to be.
It's like
Just like a couple months, maybe.
Yeah, at the end of June.
Yeah,
Does that make sense? Maybe?
possibly. I know, and then Cassie said that.
Hopefully it's on.
Well, I mean, it's a relatively abbreviated time frame for the whole thing, right? So I don't know how long. I mean, yeah, we'll have to double check on that.
So, and I don't know, I mean, I know about the survey, obviously, but as far as where it's distributed,
I was just
Yeah.
wondering about that.
actually, that'll be with Cassie for the next
Yeah.
survey. So,
Yeah.
But like I was thinking the Chamber of Commerce, but also River Valley Co-op,
Yeah, we thought of that too.
and getting, they're pretty good about putting out things.
Yeah.
Um,
And so what was the other one? It was the
I would do the Greater Easthampton
Chamber
Chamber,
of Commerce.
I do the LGBT Chamber,
Oh, that's
River Valley Co-op,
Mhm. Would that be, I guess, Cassie that did that?
Yeah, Cassie. between Cassie and I.
And that means actually giving them hard copies they can
EDAC
keep
too.
available when people come and go in their places. Or are you talking about their websites?
I'm talking about their website and their newsletters. Like I'm thinking of
Yeah.
people who have really great, like e-blasts
Reach in
that
the
people
community,
read,
yeah.
and that would be
Right.
those are the three that come up. And I think that this would do it. I mean, the other they're a little more friendly these days would be Bank ESB. They have a couple of newsletters.
Mhm.
They've been, I mean, they're protective. I shouldn't say that they're protective of their list. They don't like to blast out a lot of things.
Right.
But this might be, since
Right.
they're
And the
making
Council on
money off the loans.
Aging, we thought too.
Yeah, I think everyone, we should, I mean, share it wide and get it out there.
And the schools.
Yeah. Yeah, Cultural Chaos is also this Saturday. I know Cass said she's going to be at a table there, helping get the word out there. Unfortunately, I'm probably tied up most of the day, so I cannot be there to do maybe a quick appearance. So she invited all of us to come hang out and like talk with folks, though, if we like to. So good recruiting opportunity for the committee as well. If
Wish I
anybody
could be
could
there.
be there, you have any chance to be there at all?
I have a sister from out of town who has
Okay.
been here a few years and is going to be here. We're going to go to it.
Okay.
Actually, maybe I can spare an hour away from my sister's
Well,
visit.
You can always just charge Cassie with being
And-
a recruitment agent as well.
That tent, I won't be here either, but there's like one municipal tent, like
Yeah.
space, so people can walk, like you can do something else or show up. And I know a lot of the department heads are coming for
Okay.
shifts too.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna try to make it over there for a little while, but
There was talk at a previous meeting about those who are willing. There was a couple people who said they were, including me, of actually delivering hard copies of surveys door to door to businesses in town.
Yeah, I can do that.
Just to make sure that it gets in their
Okay.
hands.
do we know that Weston Sampson is equipped to incorporate like the physical copies into their results?
Yeah, they
I
work
don't
for
think
us.
I don't.
We're
Yeah.
giving them hell of money, yes.
Like, given how
Yes.
hard it is to get survey responses and get high rates, if you can
Yeah.
raise it by getting people to fill out written ones, I don't think they got much grounds to complain about that.
Okay. Well, if we should double check number one then on the time frame that they have this survey open, and then like how do we get stuff like physical
I mean,
copies
it
out
would-
to people?
It would be great to get physical copies or links to the June 6th Main Street meeting.
Oh yeah.
That,
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's tomorrow.
I think it's tomorrow.
Yeah.
That is tomorrow.
yeah, I'm totally out of that.
Yeah.
Is that a public hearing?
It's a workshop.
So open to the
But at least could get some hard copies to that. I once again.
Or even just like yeah,
I can get it announced.
you can get it announced.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
I can get like a QR code or something.
Well, this came up before, and I know that there's limits and restrictions on the city using any city funds to provide inducements or incentives to people to fill out do something like fill out surveys. Is there any reason we can't sign up places like River Valley Market or
Mhm.
Subway? I don't know who, businesses in town, small of a bakery, to offer, themselves to offer and encouraging this effort on the climate action plan and getting citizen input to get business sponsors to provide little coupons, free
for
coffee,
somebody that,
free
like-
coffee.
I don't know if we
you
have time
turn-
to do that though. We should, if it's already started, I think it would be difficult to get that organized. Having tried to do that in the past, it takes a certain amount of time.
I guess I'll talk to Cassie about the timeline and how strict
I mean, for
the surveys have to be in by the end of June, or we can't move forward.
you can usually push them back 2 weeks, and they're going to fall behind anyways, just because they're going to fall behind the nature of it. So I do have, if somebody fills out a survey in person, I mean, Cultural Chaos, it would be helpful, or if there's a school event.
Right.
Upstairs, I have limited edition Lego kits that children and adults are bananas about. I mean, seriously, there's Star Wars and these little fairy ones that are like sold on eBay that we got from a veterans organization. They were clearing out. We have a new vet organization in town, the Warrior Room, and I have hundreds. And I have
Really? That
it's two. Oh, I have hundreds. They're in my office. I look at them every day. But stuff like that really worked for us to get small business signups at Mill Pond Live for
Right.
inclusive procurement, and made the kids do all these exercises for candy and stuff.
So the
Yeah,
answer
that
is
could
yes,
even
we
be-
can do that.
You could even do it at like the farmer's market or something too, right? Like we have like Lego sets there, fill
Oh,
these
yeah.
out, and like we'll give your kid a Lego set.
Yeah, like I said, and we have I mean, I don't want to take up, but
Yeah.
What I would say is when you want to do things like that,
Mhm.
don't ask the departments, just ask my office,
Okay.
because I have the goodies, and I also have, we're able to get things more easily.
Okay.
Can't do gift cards that we purchase.
Right.
And I think people like hands-on things,
Yeah.
like whether it's for a grandkid, a kid, or themselves. A lot of adults do Legos. I found out.
For sure.
No.
Well, Lego
Yeah, it is a
Masters.
big
Anybody
thing.
watch Lego
It's a
Masters?
huge,
It's
yes.
amazing.
I didn't know, I saw the commercial and I was like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned on here too, there's a public event in late June. That's part of what they have to do is they're going to do their own public event around the
Yeah.
CAP, right? So maybe that's a time to like
Mhm.
pool these resources into one event.
Is that date set?
I don't know. So it's vague on my agenda for that reason. I don't know if that's set in yet or not, and when or where that's going to be. But there's something that they were, at least one part of the public outreach was doing that. So, so that could be, rather than, again, like trying to do these piecemeal things in other places, maybe we could concentrate on that one event is like, try to get people to and like have rewards or, incentives for people to come and fill stuff out. And computers available to them, like I assume they're gonna have like some way people can do it digitally right there versus have to do it on paper.
Yeah, my,
That would be the ideal.
yeah, and our office has 2 iPads that are set up for those things.
Okay.
We got from a grant, so
Okay.
we're,
So that's good to know. Again, even
Yeah.
if we wanted to show up at the farmer's market one day or something and have people fill out the survey there,
Yeah.
have those
They can
available
do it right there.
potentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
and I can see what other ones are.
Let's
In
do
terms of incentives, it doesn't necessarily have to be what it is that the city can, I think that's how we got into the discussion with the Legos. Oh, I got Legos. We could do community incentives, so there may be a number of community organizations and businesses that say, I'll give a little coupon for whatever.
Well,
Right.
yeah, that's what
It's-
John was suggesting.
Yeah.
Because it's just like advertising for them.
For
And
sure.
it's not city monies, that's the point.
I don't mean to be negative
Yeah.
about this, but I tried to do this a couple of years
Oh, no,
ago,
I agree.
and it's like
You need-
incredibly time consuming
You're
and
right,
hard
Connie.
to
No,
get it
you
organized.
just take it, yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a great idea. I'm just not sure
My
we can do
concern
it
is
in time.
is that we don't get surveys responses only from the converted. You know, the activists in town and,
Right.
preaching to the choir. And sometimes you don't get to those other people unless you find some, clever
Right.
ways or inducements or whatever to give them a reason to want to fill it out, even though they wouldn't think
Yeah.
of filling out. Because we want to know how they feel about these issues,
Yes.
and not the people who are already convinced about the need for a climate action plan and resiliency and all that.
Mhm. Well, let's do a little more investigation into what their public outreach plan is
Yeah.
currently
Yeah,
and
that's
like
correct,
dates
yes.
around things, and then maybe a targeted focus on like 1 or 2 businesses versus like going and having to try like 25. And then
Yeah.
try to get soccer
The,
sponsors
the
too. It's
solar
like-
installation companies might be interested.
That could be right. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe they would want to offer some sort of inducement in conjunction with somebody
There's
else.
probably one place where it's not a conflict of interest.
Yeah. So let's investigate,
That's true,
figure
too.
out what their plan is, and then figure out where we can be helpful again in pushing it to other businesses that can help promote it or Chamber of Commerce. Get some notice tomorrow at the June 6th Main Street meeting, and then there'll be some
Isn't
other
there a big rig day coming up or something?
problem. When is that?
The day after Culture Chaos.
What
The
is
day
that
after.
again?
Big rig day.
Big rig
Big-
day.
oh,
So
right.
Sunday the
A
11th.
different crowd than the co-op. and
Actually,
the
you're
farmers
right.
market.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys know when that is? What the date?
Just the 11th.
Yep.
Day after Cultural Care. It's a big weekend in Easthampton.
I know. So I shouldn't say this is not so bad.
So is there any? I mean, I know that's happening. It's like a big parade. Is there anything else like happening? Like, are people going to be in a certain place when it starts? I'm just wondering if there's a place where you could put a table to do that, like where everyone's going to be, or just going to be people will stand
Big
around and
day.
wait for it to go by.
No, I thought they did
They
have something.
do like BMX stuff
in that
usually,
field
right?
next
Is
to
that
the
part of it?
co-op. I thought they used to.
They used to, but now it's all wetlands, so they can't. So the last time we did it actually 50 Payson, there was a
Right.
big parade, and then they put some stuff on the parking lot and then some stuff
on
next
Payson,
door.
yeah.
Is that going to happen this year?
I don't know.
Who
I'll
knows?
find out.
Okay.
Lindsay will
Yeah.
know.
Because
Probably on
I could do
Facebook.
something on the 11th. I can't do something on the 10th.
Yeah, the 11th is,
So
I can find out.
I can
Yeah,
send
if
it
you
to
look,
you.
yeah, if you look on Facebook for Big Brain Damage, and there's some details on there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I'm going to move on to the next
Yeah.
thing here that keep us, which
Yeah.
is, we've talked a little bit about, vehicle electrification, the trolleys and things like that, but school bus electrification is one thing that we've been talking about for a little while now, and it's one, that's a little bit more of a frustrating piece because we have a hard time controlling a lot of that because we don't own and operate our own buses. And we're sort of beholden to third-party companies and don't have a lot of avenues for pressure to do that. But, again, starting at the federal level, electric buses is a big focal point of adoption. And there are opportunities out there already to start, going down this path and to be sort of maybe not leaders because there's other communities that are already doing that, but like to be a little bit out in front of it. We're at the end of, I guess, the first year of a 3-year contract right now, so we have a couple years before that's going to come up again. We also are in a situation where the company that we use is also used by Northampton and Southampton, or Hampshire Regional School Districts, for their buses. I don't know if the contracts are on the same cycle or not, but that potentially gives us a little more oomph together should those communities also be interested in pushing this forward. But,
I don't know how Springfield did it, but Springfield had their third-party vendor go for they got 25 electric buses.
Really?
Yeah,
Their
and I mean, they're big.
Oh, that's third party. I
They
didn't
don't
know
do their own
that.
transportation.
Their vendor though is the Lower Pioneer Valley Educational Collaborative. I mean,
Really?
that's who runs the system.
Springfield buses?
I think Springfield. That 25 new buses. That's the first slide in my
Oh, maybe
slideshow.
they're maybe
75
yeah.
buses
Yeah.
to the Lower Pioneer Valley, includes Springfield, includes 8 other cities and towns, and they run the system, so they could apply directly for the grants.
And
So
we're
they
a member.
own the buses.
Not of Lower Pioneer Valley, not for fuel purchases, but not for bus system. I talked to the guy who ran Joe. What's his name? Joe. He's one of the candidates for interim.
Joya.
Joel. I talked with him
Joel.
about that. Yeah.
I know we're a member because I have to sign the MPO.
We're a member of that for fuel, but
Who's
there's a separate
I'm
structure
wondering.
within the organization. There's a separate structure agreement, I believe, for the running a bus system that serves all their school systems. If that were true, that would be wonderful. But I asked
they
them
don't
if we
provide
I asked them
buses to us.
So we have kids there then, and we don't use their buses.
There's a contract.
I'll check.
No, I think those are Durham buses that we use to get our kids to their
There.
programs. Yes.
I wonder if we just opt in. Okay, but
Well, he told me that they'd have to go to their board if we wanted to become a member of Lower Pioneer Valley Collaborative for the purposes of a bus system. It's something that he said he could look at and find out about what the process would be. But he said what could work for as a consortium on our behalf at some point down the line. He saw no reason why Hampshire Educational Collaborative couldn't
Yeah, I
run
was gonna
something
say.
that for the
Yeah.
towns in Hampshire County.
How is that
To do
determined
bidding.
what collaborative you belong to? Because all cities and towns belong to collaboratives. Who decides what collaborative?
wherever you want to.
You sign up, right?
Oh, the
You sign
city?
up.
Yeah.
You sign
I
up.
didn't
Sign
know
an
that.
agreement. You're part of a
Oh,
consortium.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
We are part of the Hampshire, we are already part of the Hampshire Educational Collaborative?
that's.
Yes.
But not for bus.
But
purposes.
yeah,
Well, they
that's
don't do
interesting.
anything.
They
They
don't
don't
do
do anything
anything
with
buses.
buses. So we have
They
to
don't.
talk.
That's the one in Northampton.
Convince
right?
them
The
and members
collaborative,
that there's a
yeah.
reason to get into. The reason that was brought up to me by that consultant that
Mhm.
Joel. Is that how you say his name?
Joel.
Joel.
Yep.
Suggested I talk to Labrie, who said that what am I going to say about Hampshire Educational Collaborative. Just that you could work with them
We
to
could
do
work with
this,
them, but they would have to be willing to take on
Yeah.
a bus,
Yeah.
a whole
Yeah.
bus.
Oh, I'm
situation.
sorry. Yeah, what I was trying to say, or forgetting to say, was it was about how to increase competitiveness in the bus business to get more bids.
That's-
He said to put, a group bid. He's working with a couple of counties and groups in Berkshire, Franklin County. He's doing this kind of joint bidding process through a consortium to get more bidders. That was an interesting subject to deal with our general problem of not having many, all their eggs in one basket here, not having many people to negotiate with or
Right.
play off against each other.
Right.
He had some really good ideas about how to work on that.
John,
That's a
what
little
is his
bit
name?
separate
I'm
from.
sorry. I missed who you were speaking to.
It's in previous.
Joyle is his last
Joyle
name.
was the guy who runs
okay, I
the
recognize that name. Okay, it's here
LP, and
somewhere.
this Labrie guy is a consultant who works exclusively with bus contracts, municipal bus contracts, advising municipalities. And he gave me an hour or more on the phone on a bunch of issues. But that focus was on the general problem of, you know, if you're not providing services yourself, you're not running a bus system, what are your options and how do you get the
Okay.
most leverage? So that was a good one, but that's sort of a separate issue.
And it's a separate contract, transportation. Okay,
Yeah. for
now
that.
I'm
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, we're still sort of at this crossroads, right? Or sort of like figuring out like which
Well,
avenue is going to be our best way forward.
Did you get a copy? You were able to forward a copy to me?
I
or
did
the
not.
PowerPoint? Okay,
No,
well, we
I-
can get you a copy.
So
I've been
why don't you
researching this
talk
for
through
about
that
a year
first,
in different phases. We started over a year ago talking with the former business manager for the schools about the contract that went out last year and got
Mhm.
signed with Durham. Try to get some language in there about electric bus options. And
Maybe
it
just a
turned out it was
preference
too
for it.
late, and it was, you know, it wasn't the right environment. It was too late to try to get something in at that point in time.
Mhm.
But I've had a conversation with Nick Bernier, who also has faced these issues
Mhm.
over in Northampton with my part-time job boss there who runs their bus services. And we went through the slideshow as the slide presentation.
Okay.
The idea was that we'd like to go to the school committee
Mhm.
to see if they would be willing to put some attention towards long-term planning and steps to take, negotiating with vendors, working with other communities to try to increase our leverage on electrification of the bus system. We can't, these are communities around us also that don't run their own bus systems. So banding together to try to put some pressure on Durham or to attract some other vendors who are out there
Right.
around the edges like Five Star and some of the other companies is probably, you know, our best strategy. I have not directly approached Durham because without the nod of approval of the school department and the
Mhm.
business or
Yeah.
yours, I don't want to go try to represent us, you know,
Right.
to the company yet. So
Mhm.
if we have that, we can start talking to Durham. We can start talking to other school committees or energy committees in the other towns about how to work together.
Yep.
The best model that's available to us, I think, unless somebody decides we're going to go public, you know, go in a whole different path work with a collaborative, Lower Pioneer Valley or Hampshire,
Mhm.
to set up a consortium bidding structure, and somebody operates the system. Well, private company operates, somebody administers it for us. The best option is one that a number of places have done it now, but is using a company like Highland Electric, which is a third-party
Mhm.
group
Yeah.
that provides you the bus, and at the cost that you are currently paying, their business model is to have you pay no more than you currently pay with diesel buses. They will supply the electric bus.
Mhm.
They will take care of reimbursing you for maintenance costs, and you know they're financing it. Now they get tax incentives, they get
Right.
depreciation, and as a corporation they get tax incentive. They can do the two-way charging. They can get the benefits of the two-way charging. So that's their interest in it.
Mhm.
They are doing all of Montgomery County, Maryland.
I was gonna say,
It's a huge.
there was a big article.
Yeah.
When you said Highland, I was like, wait,
They
I
also
heard
did-
that. Yeah.
There's a Massachusetts community they're working
Beverly.
with, Beverly.
Beverly. They're doing Beverly.
Okay.
Yeah, so the thing is that normally if you just deal with them directly,
Yep.
you're stuck, you got a bus, now you don't have a staff to operate it. Now, we
Right.
don't want to, as I gather, no one's about ready to hire a bunch of people to run buses in the city. So, and people to administer the staff. So, what you can do is it's a sort of a three-way arrangement. Highland works with your vendor, your bus vendor. They could work
Yeah.
with Durham, and there's a model in White Plains, New York, where they have purchased the buses and made them available to Durham. They're called the national company, I'm forgetting the name of it off the top of my head, but it doesn't go by Durham, but it's their
Right,
national
yeah.
organization
Okay.
that owns them. To provide the buses and have Durham operate them for the city of White Plains, New York. And presumably it's at a cost that's not too much
So- I'm sorry.
for the city.
So Durham does not purchase the buses. This other company owns the buses and rents them to Durham or to the
Right,
city?
Durham, then,
They provide, it must be a pass-through. They provide them to Durham. Durham provides the bus services to the city, in this case.
including the.
They charge the city like, we get charged whatever, hundreds of thousands a year for the services. They must in turn pay that fee to Highland to offset their costs. But in Durham, as an international company, has made a commitment in the UK to no more diesel buses.
Right.
So I'd like to, ask them,
What about
hey,
us?
what about us? We had this conversation with Nick, and he didn't
Right.
want to, he wants to be careful treading lightly with these guys right now, since we
Right.
don't have too many options. Is not to.
As a first step, since there's still 2 more years left in the contract, can we just explore the idea about whether or not you can just include it as a priority provision in a bidding contract? So you
That's what we asked them to do last year.
But
That's what we asked them.
there are
That's
no
what we
other
asked them to
companies
do last
bidding.
year.
Durham was the only
You
company.
need to have competitive, yeah.
Right,
So,
yeah,
what
yeah, that
do
was,
you
in the
Doesn't
end,
matter
Durham
what
was the
you put
only
in there.
bidder.
And Durham,
Yeah.
no.
And
Well,
they're,
we have 2 years till the next contract.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something that's done in the next contract, but maybe it's more systematic than just an option.
So I mentioned it kind of just because if you put it out,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
might encourage perhaps
Other-
bidding, because they'll
yeah.
say, oh,
Mhm.
Easthampton and this consortium of that
Right.
are looking for something specific in their contract. It might encourage.
yeah, that was definitely the idea. I think we
Yeah.
would want to do that regardless, right? That's definitely, we want to prioritize that. But we want to set ourselves up for, make sure that the options are wider, right? It's not just kind of like, not just preferential thing and we get one bid and like, so say la vie, right? It's like, it's the other things like generating that interest from the other side or making it more attractive to more companies as well, somehow, or putting ourselves in.
So the economics are, the technical and logistical stuff.
Yeah.
Are not, there's still wrinkles out there. There's a report coming in, I haven't received it yet. There was a pilot up in Burlington, Vermont, sponsored by the state. 3 different bus companies provided electric buses the last 2 winters to see about how they performed in winters and then,
Yeah.
winter conditions and charging issues. There's some wrinkles, but the country is going kind of whole hog on this. The orders, you'll see in the presentation, the PowerPoint, the orders are going through the roof from the state of California to New York,
Yeah.
New York making commitments. They expect the prices to come down on the buses fairly quickly, and on the battery technology. That's the biggest cost for those buses. So, if you're running a system, you got to worry about routing and what routes you can cover on the charge for that bus, and when you're
Yeah.
going to charge, and when you're going to feed back into the grid. It's complicated if you're running the system, but we're not running our system right here.
Right.
It's not our responsibility, but so we got to figure out how to talk with the people who can provide the buses. They can get the grants in directly from the federal government. It can go through Bluebird and International.
Yep.
They get the grant and take that off the price of the bus that goes to the vendor. As long as they are working for the city of Easthampton, they can be the recipient of those federal grant monies.
So what would you like to do?
What
as the next step?
what I've been wanting for a long time is to be able to talk with you and to be able to say,
Sure.
is it
Should we
after
pursue
you review
this?
the materials that we will send you along, are you good with us going to the school committee to make an appeal to them to get on board and to assign some members to look into it, to monitor the developments, work with us, talk with other school committees about where we might share resources?
I think the push to school committee is great. The sooner the better. That's a lot of, I just put a note. I'll ask Pioneer Valley Planning Commission if I can put forward a a proposal. It's called the district something technical assistance, and they'll do the feasibility study and work with you.
Oh,
Well, I mean, because nobody in the building knows how to do that. I mean, we actually don't do a lot of that work ourselves. We use regional and
To
they're,
do for grants, you mean for grants or what? Because Nick
Yeah.
Nick knows how to put a good bus contract together, right? I mean,
we write
a
a lot of the
bus,
grants,
yeah.
but as soon as I get the grants, I give them to a third party to administer. We don't have any, I just told planning to shut down all grant applications. We have no ability or capacity on the fiscal or planning or DPW to take any grants for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
None.
the grant route is not high on our prospect list because
Right.
first of all, there's $5 billion in IRA for buses.
If I have to, I'm just,
Sorry.
I just want, I'm not trying to say no, there's a way forward here.
Right.
But what you're talking about, we just got through with a $4.7 million grant from the federal government that we didn't even get all of it. But it's still, if our name's on it, we have to do a single audit. And that single audit can start at $9,000 and can go to 47. So all I'm saying is no, it's not, we can't do it, but we bring in somebody, it's called our Economic Development Agency for Pioneer Valley, and it's the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and they have the experts who do this. So we
Yeah.
get 3 DTLs. So this is the other part of it, is transportation, and all we're talking about, it's great, but it doesn't change the base. And I can only call very interesting routes of Durham and First Student and Vanpool. Those are the primary ones. And why they have incentives to go electric and why they don't and why they do anything. And it's a maze. I used to run a transportation company for kids. And you really have to, I mean, there's a lot going on there. I think the first is we need a white paper that says we can do, like I would love to call PVA, I'll text them and say, will you meet with the Energy Advisory Committee and will you do a white paper on these 4 proposals, or I'll give it to you, you guys can put it down. And we have 2 free ones every year, and I haven't used the second one.
All I was trying to say about the grants is not about let's get a grant, the money's after. I was basically making the point that the money that's been out there and been granted so far has been for environmental justice communities. It's gone to the big cities, and they overshot their budget with the grants. It's going to be difficult. The money's just not going to go very far. The federal money. So
we're
not,
rural.
We can't get this money.
We don't compete with them. We're rural. There's a whole pot of money, $1 billion is just for rural, and we're rural under the Federal Highway Transportation Agency.
$1 billion set aside for
electric
electric bus
buses.
Program.
Yes, for the electrification of
Okay.
rural municipalities.
But also the other more important point is that if we don't operate our system, they don't give us a grant to buy buses.
But we would apply for the grant or the credit, and then we would negotiate with the transportation company, and they would get the pass-through credit.
That's the way we were kind of talking about.
Right, so that,
right.
and we do that now with
Okay.
DPW grants. It's a pretty known model, and the companies need to show they have been partnering with a certain number of municipality co-ops, like quasi-public agencies. But yeah, gateway
So-
cities are getting first dibs, and they should. But we don't compete with that money.
So the question with school committee and the school department, I'd love to talk with people from PVPA and share information and talk about these routes and give you your white paper. But with the school committee and school department, I mean, they got a lot going on. They always have, not now, maybe more so than ever. Do we ask them to put it on as an action item for the school committee? Are we proposing that they endorse some general resolution about going in that direction? That they assign the subject to do they have an operations subcommittee that deals with logistics?
Finance. I mean, my suggestion would be to get on the agenda and make the case. These are the 5 reasons why Easthampton can do this. There are a lot of different things and whatnot. We would like you to sign this resolution saying you are supportive of this movement. There's no, they don't have to commit money, they don't have to, and that would be also good to get a feasibility study, which is AKA a project manager.
Okay.
So we have people upstairs who just manage projects. And somebody would have to manage
And with a
this.
resolution like that, I could go to other school committees, other town energy committees like Northampton's, the Hill Towns, and say, our school committee is interested in this and
Yeah.
wants to move forward, so can we talk, can we have meetings?
I mean, to get a letter from this committee, EDIC, City Council, Bees, school committee, school finance, like 5 letters from the same city saying we're all on the same page, we want to go, is very powerful. It's very powerful.
Grant wise.
Yep, just in general, just like the letters, Dan Carey, John Felix would all support this. And we can use them over and over again to push out and say, look, we're serious about this. Like we really want to get this done, and it's above our technical capacity. So we need technical assistance money, and also what's the best way for Easthampton to do this?
Okay.
It's, I mean, I have kind of an idea about it, but I think, I think the city should buy all the electric buses and then lease them out to Durham and First Student and whatnot.
Oh, I
And
love
then we
that
have the
idea.
asset
I didn't think you wanted the city to be in the ownership business.
of property.
Just property? Buses, okay.
Yeah. Buses are a totally different thing.
Yeah, disposable.
Well, I mean, this would be,
Appreciate. Just gotta
Yeah.
park them somewhere.
I know you're running, I just
you can also switch them in.
take that quick opportunity because the chargers at the new complex are due to come online July 1st, right? Because they were put into the next budget.
Mhm.
And I know I heard you say earlier, you're not sure about the pricing, it's kind of, I
Yeah.
get the impression of losing profits. I would just try, maybe just on a pilot basis. Because I view those things, as I use them in the public, I use the ones here at the
Right,
City Hall,
yeah.
et cetera. It's just, I look at it as equivalent to, if I wasn't doing this, I'd be buying gas.
Yeah.
And so I put myself in, what do you pay at the pumps? I would encourage you to look at a pricing, that's a little bit more aggressive. And I, there's no reason that the city should lose anything here, really.
We don't have the volume. We could triple our prices, we would still lose. We lose $20,000 on every charger,
Well,
on the doubles. It's very expensive. The distribution, we pay the same charges as adhesive applications because of DPO.
This is not the demand charge. This is not about the demand charge from Eversource. It's somehow other.
Yeah, and transmission, and we're treated like a commercial entity.
Somebody.
it's- Hopefully it changes.
Yeah.
yes, it's gonna be
That's
so.
crazy.
It's the most upsetting thing about Massachusetts right now going green, because they want us to do this, they pay for all of this stuff, and there's no money to pay the gap.
Well, hopefully Weston and Sampson has the in-house capability to analyze this systematically. And this is, if transportation is 60% of our carbon emissions,
Yeah.
roughly, or in that neighborhood. And we're dealing with city vehicles right now and struggling, but we haven't touched the commercial and the residential vehicles. That's got to be something, they got to help us figure this out kind of systematically going forward. Even if we can't solve it now, what direction you're going, what things we can solve, what things we got to ally with other neighboring communities and our legislatures to get things changed at the state level. But to me,
So
That's
when will we
their
know
job.
if this is changed? And how will we know? Is this a state legislation issue?
Yeah, there was a law, DPU got a lot of pressure, there, a law went through, I'm assuming the governor didn't veto it, but she hasn't signed all the budget.
So it has passed the
Oh, oh.
legislation, it just has to be signed.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good news.
I mean, I don't know if
This
he's
is
gonna
say-
sign it.
what is,
Why wouldn't
is there a
she?
reference on that? You know what it is? How do you find that law to read what it says?
I got it in my municipal handbook of these are the 10 laws, green laws that are, let me look one, but I will.
If you think of it, I'll ask around 2 minutes.
Yeah,
I'd like to see what it does.
Yeah, I wanna say that Dan Carey signed, was a co-sponsor.
Okay.
And DPU, it was a question of could a piece of legislation kind of do over rate schedules from DPU or something like that, and they can. So however you write that law, we're supposed to be looking for some discounts in our.
So Dan probably knows about this. I'll send Dan an email and
Yeah,
ask him.
and
about
Kelly,
it. Maybe
actually, that probably
Dan would be
would-
willing to come to one of our meetings, I'm sure,
Okay.
and talk to us about it.
Yeah, he knows, and he also knows what's in the system, but he also knows what's likely to actually get through it,
Mhm.
you know, so we can hone, and that he hears from us about the electric buses. But the charter issue, every community in Massachusetts is dealing with it. It's the one thing we all talk about.
Right.
Even like the bigger cities like Boston and whatnot.
Mhm.
We'll get that. I do look at that. Yeah, leasing on buses, there's a lot of money in that. There's a lot of money in
No,
that.
but this is.
I'm always looking, I'm putting together my revenue plan for January.
But you know, we weren't
what can we
thinking
do?
that we could, I mean, that opens up a lot of possibilities if the city is willing to purchase the buses and we would.
It does, I'm not saying, that's just one of the.
But we
Weston
didn't
is-
even go there because you had like this hard rule, we thought you had a hard rule about not buying and stuff like that. But you're just talking about buildings.
Yeah,
Right.
I wanna,
Good to know, good to know.
we don't
for the
wanna own
future.
any land.
For our future thinking.
Yeah, no, anything we can sell quickly that we don't have to
Tax
go to
Right.
the registrar of deeds, I'm all for
Thank you
it.
for your time, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you
so much.
very much.
This was fun, I wish
And-
Wide ranging
I still want to talk to you about the opt-in,
stretch code.
stretch
Next on
code.
the
Yeah, we had a
agenda,
meeting
so.
planned and then you got busy with some other things that came up. But I'll call and try to set up another appointment.
So can I just shoot one thing back?
Yes.
Can you look at the bipartisan infrastructure bill? Because I did not understand it. But if you, I'm gonna send you the Markey, guide, and it talks about adopting certain zoning and certain codes and having rebates given back to cities and stuff, and I just don't understand, because I looked at it, I know you've been looking at that. Planning has been talking about that, a couple of city councilors are talking about more green zoning and building codes. I know BJ's been talking about it, so I don't know, I'm gonna go right upstairs and send you guys the Markey thing, but I don't understand if it's the same as what you're asking.
I'm talking about the building codes that already exist, but
Yeah.
but green communities have to opt in to the most
And-
strict
And
ones.
so Green Communities is supposed to be changing those to be stronger.
They as of
Yeah.
January 1st, they did change, but
And-
there's another level that you opt into.
Right, so I wanna know if that's equal to the federal, in the bipartisan infrastructure bill,
Oh,
to
okay,
get money,
okay, okay.
Okay.
money,
All right.
money, money. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank
Mayor.
you.
Appreciate your time.
Wow.
Lot going on here.
Busy.
Our minute taker has had the work cut out for us today, for sure. Let me know when you can come up for air.
Yeah,
To say
okay,
that
okay.
is-
Move on
That
to.
is complete news to me about, and I reviewed the
Well-
federal bus grant programs, and I know a lot of small towns in Western Mass applied for this last round of grants, and to my knowledge, none of them got it. They might have been waitlisted or whatever, so I have
To
to, I
buy
have to
buses
find,
outright, you mean, or
to get grants, they were applying for grants for electric school buses.
To purchase.
purchase.
Purchase them, right,
Okay.
and they were waitlisted.
Mhm.
And they're rural, so I gotta investigate, track down what she's referring to.
Okay.
That would be, maybe another ballgame if that's actually.
Right.
Well, also,
They
if
definitely have
we
that
can
carve out.
purchase them, that's also another ballgame, because we've been assuming all along we
Yeah,
can only.
yeah.
Right.
um,
Well, it
You
also
do
opens up
that,
the-
that's when you need Pioneer Valley. With what we're doing right now, I don't think we need Pioneer Valley too much. There's some consultants out there, there's people with experience, we can figure out how to work together to put bids together.
Right.
If you go to Hampshire Collaborative to do a regional consortium and run a system, that's a big plan. If you decide to go public within Easthampton, run our own bus system, that's a big thing that we do.
Well, I
need
don't
some
think that's what she was,
need
I
some
interpreted what
consultants.
she was saying was we would purchase the buses and then lease them back to a company that would run it.
That's right.
So we would get all of the rebates and the incentives and all that stuff, but we would still have another company running everything. Just that we would own them. So we could get the depreciation on them,
Yeah,
all that
I
stuff.
don't know. I've never seen that. I mean, I haven't heard of that yet. All the arrangements I've seen out there with buses and.
Well, in a
I haven't heard-
way, we would be doing what that company you
What
mentioned.
Highland is doing. Yeah.
Well,
We
that
would do it
works if those
ourselves.
buses it might work in terms of the grant requirements if those buses were used to transport Easthampton kids or public system kids. We
Well, so
we
obviously
can't just
something we
rent
should
them out
look
and
into.
have Durham use them for
Right.
willy nilly around the state. It's
Right.
that's an interesting
Well, it's
But it
certainly
also-
something to look into.
It certainly, I think it also opens up the possibility of going down like a Highland Electric road too more. If there seems like there's more ways to make that work than just like, then we would have to provide drivers, right? It seems like there's some other options out there for doing something like that
Yeah.
under a contract and then letting them figure out how to make the driver thing work as well, even with their own routes.
Trying to picture a bus vendor wanting to sign up to provide student transportation services
Right.
with buses that they don't own. And on what basis do they charge you? Well, they charge you for staffing that they hire. They charge you, maybe you ask them to maintain it. I mean, I'm trying to,
Yeah, maintenance.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That doesn't
Yeah, I'm
sound-
just-
Curious to see what the lead time of actually getting the bus.
Well, that's
That's
it.
a couple of years or more.
I would
Yeah.
say at least. 'Cause
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of meetings just like this now.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody-
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'll send you a copy of that if it's not already available at the presentation, but there's a group, National World Resources Institute has an electric school bus initiative, and they have planning documents on there for municipalities who are trying to move in that direction and the different routes they can take. But if you're gonna own the system and go for the grants and get the buses online, figure out your routes, it's a several year process.
Well, and yeah, so that
Which
you've
is
done
okay.
you've done a ton of work and put this presentation together, and I did want to have this conversation first to get sort of that feedback and sort of the mindset before we, you know,
I'm glad
Yeah.
she's not concerned about us and encouraging us to go talk to the school committee.
yeah, absolutely. So that's what I was going to ask
go
you.
there without knowing that she
And
supported
the other thing that
Exactly.
she said that I thought was of great interest was trying to get other committees and boards to sign a resolution saying they support this. I think that's a
Right.
really, really good idea as well, because then if we do apply for any grants or whatever, we have all this documentation that, you know, the city is 100% behind this on every level. I think it's a good idea.
Who did she have on that list? D's?
School committee, she
Really?
did say B's, well, because they're going to be focused on, you know, environmental
And
impact stuff.
what is EDIC? She said.
That's
it's-
the group
EDIC,
that
that's
invited us.
Economic development.
Oh, yeah, economic development, okay.
Did she
Yeah.
say
And
city
us,
council?
and
But
us.
She
She
said,
did say
we
city
got us.
council.
City
She did
council.
say city council. She said the school committee and the school finance committee.
Okay. That's at the point at which you're gonna go for grants, or you're gonna ask a
Yeah.
legislator to intervene somehow and the vendor market somehow to help us get more bids or. Yeah.
But what she was saying was just before you do anything else, just get all those groups, committees, just to sign a resolution saying that they support it.
I heard her,
And then we may not use any of that for a year, but we've got it on paper.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I thought it was
I'm
interesting.
happy to go to city council. I mean, at this point, the resolutions are gonna be fairly vague.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, when
Let's,
it's
you
going
know,
to sort
you
of
got-
feedback
Just
into
big
like that
picture,
contract,
we
I think
support
there's a,
it.
you know, there's a preference for this moving forward, essentially,
Yeah.
right? That's their preference. But we're going to push for it as much as we can. We're going to try to find the right pathway to get there.
Right.
But that's still very much up in the air. But the next step in that process is what now? You take this to the school committee. You feel comfortable?
Yeah,
asking them to get on their agenda.
Yeah,
now?
I'll contact Marin,
Yeah.
and see how to facilitate that happening and getting on an agenda.
Yeah, obviously, we should wait until after they have hired the new superintendent. We should just wait until that's.
Well, why don't we let Marin or some other
Yeah, they can
school
do
committees
something.
be
But
the judge,
they'll have
be the
that
judge
done
about
by the
whether
end of
they have
June.
C-stall business but that, or they're still looking at other items. This might be an easy one for them to vote on and it's
Also,
not
actually,
controversial.
when's their last meeting? Do they
Well, don't
meet
they-
in July? I wonder if they even.
Maybe do they have like
Look into
budget?
it.
They have like new school year budget stuff to still deal with. Do they got to
No
set
idea.
bus routes for the coming year and
I
like
don't know.
look at enrollments and all that? There's a lot going on. I don't think they just get to take the summer off. But I don't know. Okay, so we have some. Not a ton of. We have a little more clarification. At least
Yeah.
we got some form around this. A little more than we did
Mhm.
before, which I think is good. And it's always going to be a little bit tricky, but one step at a time. I appreciate all the
Oh, yeah. Thank you
legwork
so
and all the
much,
stuff that
John.
you've done,
Sure.
Yeah.
researching this and talking to people and getting the real lay of the land, and knowing things that you didn't know coming in too. So always really helpful. And I'm sorry that we didn't get to talk more about the stretch
Well,
code,
we
but it
did a
sounds
little-
like you got,
Like what she said
A
about the
piece.
bipartisan infrastructure bill, I will look into that and see. I'm sure that somebody else has already figured out how it aligns with
right.
the opt-in stretch code. I will get that information and I'll send it out as soon as I have it. Do you know
Okay.
anything about that?
What is the stretch code? Is that concerning buildings? Or
Every green communities, which we are one of, already are required to use a stretch code, which is more stringent than the regular code. And actually, in Massachusetts, it's a very small number of cities that don't and towns that don't use the stretch code. However, when they passed the climate bill, they didn't develop this as strict codes as most people who were involved in this wanted, because, well, I won't go into the details, but it's now possible for a city or town to opt in to a more strict code that does things like says, if you don't want to build a building that uses only electricity, that's okay. I mean, there are other requirements that you have to meet about the kind of structure you're making so that it really doesn't use a lot of energy, but you have to wire your building so that in the future it can be easily made an all-electric building. That is not in the regular code. And I think that one thing is huge in terms of finally electrifying and not like having our children and grandchildren live in misery. I mean, I just feel really strongly about it.
Yes,
We've got to electrify. We have to. I mean, I know there are all these problems. I know that the infrastructure is an issue, getting the electricity, but we have to plan for it and do everything we can to make it happen. And this is something that just really needs to happen, in my opinion. I've mentioned that once or twice before.
You have mentioned that once or twice before. That's why it's your agenda item.
It is my agenda item. It's why I'm on this committee
Yeah.
right now, anyway.
Yeah. Well, all right. So, got a quick bit with the mayor to talk about that.
Yeah.
You got something to look up, and then
We talked about infrastructure.
eventually it's the city council that approves it anyway, right?
The city council would have to agree. They would have to vote in favor of it. That's correct.
So, I mean, we want to have the mayor on board.
Yes, it
doing
sounds like
that.
she might not be. Once I tried to meet with her. I told you
Right.
about this, and then everything blew up in other areas. Once I looked into this infrastructure bill, I'll see if I can meet with her again and just talk it through with her and try to find out why she doesn't support it, or if maybe she does. Just try to get some more information.
Yeah. Okay. You'll report back on
I
what
will.
you find
Yes.
with that. We've talked through, I think, enough electric vehicle infrastructure stuff previously, unless somebody has anything else around that. Obviously, it's a complicated landscape of federal and state incentives and new things coming online. But I don't know, was there anything stood out to people that we should be trying to move forward with on that right now?
Not that I.
Which one?
The
Electric
fact that you said
vehicle?
that grants were available for level 2 and then 3
I think
chargers,
I
but
think it would be great if there was somebody who really knew how to do it. I've actually tried.
How to do what?
Well, somebody wants to put in a charger and a business wants to put a charger in. It is a real pain because you're working with National Grid, you're working with the state, so trying to figure out this is what you need to do.
A vehicle charger?
There's some
Yeah.
consultants out there
No,
that
it's not
specialize
that.
in
It's
this.
not that. No, I think
Well, I've looked into it a couple of times.
Yep.
There's the electrician.
you need an electrician.
You need an electrician.
You gotta work it out with the
there was
utility company.
the utility company, and then there was the state program also. And
There are
it-
programs, right, that would.
Well,
Right.
this
Right,
is true.
that's-
This
that's
is true
public.
with all the programs having to do with helping people, do anything that's switching to electricity. Is that there's a lot of stuff out there, and it's very hard to get the information. And we're hoping that our climate plan, one of the things we're hoping we'll be able to do is have a way to get that information out to the public. Because it's not just in this one area; it's across the board. People know there's stuff out there, but they don't know what it is and they don't know how to access it. You're right about that.
Are you talking
Yeah.
about public chargers, Bruce?
Well, like, if a business owner wants to put in EV chargers, and whether they're be able to access by the public or just for their business, and maybe I just got confused by it all, or but I didn't know if there's like a central place you could go and just deal with one person instead of 3 different entities, and there's the timing. You know, and I was looking into it, there was a funding limit, so if you didn't get approved by such and such a date, and the electricians never want to deal with you because it's a pain in the ass. Yeah. So
Well, they probably
that
know that much
was,
better.
that was sort of my frustration.
What's your experience been with this process?
I guess I'm now hearing there's a little bit more, so I guess I was thinking about, is that a business owner who doesn't say, I just want to provide something for my employees, whatever, charging station. I mean, I see them advertised all the time, but there are a number of, you can go on Amazon as an example.
No, you could buy one,
You
yeah.
can buy one, you get an electrician.
It would be interesting to talk
I
to
don't
River
think-
Valley Co-op and
I
ask them
don't
about it.
think it's a lot more Now, when you get to a level of like battery storage and stuff like that, and then there's a question about transformer capacity, et cetera, then I grant you, and you get a utility thing, whatever. For a regular old
Level 1 or 2.
charger,
Level 1 or 2, you
Level
should be able to
one,
just.
I think you just do
Right,
it.
level 2, you should
And then
just.
the reality is, in terms of level 3, it doesn't make, it depends on it doesn't. Level 3s are very important in various places. Perfect example, right? Along the turnpike, right? I mean,
Yeah, you don't want to
there's
be there
no-
for 5
no,
hours.
anything short of a level 3 is ridiculous.
Or possibly at the DPW or fire department.
Yeah, so there are a few places that, that.
But the
in
thing is,
terms-
I would think if I was someone who was thinking about buying an electric vehicle,
Yeah.
well, exactly, I'm in that situation. I live in an apartment. It'll be very difficult for me to charge my own car
Yeah.
because I live in an apartment, right? And and it would be great if I could zip over to a level 3 and charge my
Yeah.
car as opposed to, because it wouldn't take as
Yeah.
long.
Right, I got you.
So
You
it
don't
would
have
be great to
right.
have level 3s available
Yeah, I was just
around
saying from
town, you know?
home use, right? We're
Right.
not talking
To what?
like a residential use.
No, you
We
wouldn't
wouldn't
put
be
a level,
talking
no,
to-
you wouldn't put a level 3
Right.
in
In
your
fact,
house.
No,
I
no.
just use the
Right,
Right.
110.
Regular.
but you're in the charger that I got for the car,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're talking twos, and I don't think that that's very complicated.
No,
But-
that isn't, but when you get into the level 3,
Right.
or
Ah.
even, like at one point I looked into, the electrician said is, well, if you put in 10 stations and have it open to the public, you can get it for almost nothing because of the incentives of
Yes.
the program.
I think you're right about
But that's where it gets really complicated, because you've got to, they got to put in a new transformer, somebody.
But don't you also have to do what she was talking about like the city is subsidizing? Like, what, wouldn't you have to do that if you were a business? You'd have to, isn't it ultimately very expensive?
I don't understand what that is.
My understanding is Eversource in this area is charging a tremendous amount of money to use their electricity for charging vehicles. There's like an upcharge. As soon as a certain amount of electricity is used, then this upcharge kicks in, and it's very pricey. And it's much more than it is closer to Boston.
Right.
Am I right? Is that what she
Yeah, I believe
explained?
Cassie explained the
Yeah.
whole thing the last time as best she could. So it's, go back and
I'm gonna
rewatch the
see
recording of that
what I
meeting, I think, or
Got it.
look at the notes, yeah. Yeah, there's definitely, it's more than just say like your standard supply and like distribution charges that they're paying, which is why they can't make money on it. Because, it's like,
And this is more than the demand charge.
This
You're
is
talking
what
about
she
something
said at the
beyond-
last meeting. The city's paying more than the typical 25 cent per kilowatt hour because Eversource charges extra for providing electricity to EV chargers. When the meter reaches a certain threshold, the demand charge kicks in,
Right.
which is very high, about $9 per vehicle. Currently, the city is subsidizing the extra charges in order to encourage people to use EVs. The charge is more in Western Mass because of difficulty getting electricity to Western Massachusetts.
Yeah. So I think learning about, that point about that bill that maybe Dan knows about,
That'll change everything.
I think we need to know.
Yes, I will find out about that.
Because it shouldn't be this way.
Right.
No,
It should not be this way.
No, it's
I
ridiculous.
mean, it's good for the utility, they're gonna be selling more energy. I don't know what their problem is exactly, right?
Right. Well,
Why
their
they
problem
have
is
to
like
make it-
right. It's the back end. Like we have to pay to upgrade all this infrastructure to make sure we have capacity and on demand for people, for their cars, but also like when they flip their lights on, we got to make sure the whole system
Yeah.
is operating right.
I-
And all that's
absolutely,
all
yes.
this stuff that we're going to be responsible for. So of course, they're just
Yeah,
going to
no,
try to
fair
make
enough.
dime their way through everything.
But that's, fair enough, and maybe better understanding would let me understand that it's just, it's a recoupment by the, utilities ought to recoup. I mean, everyone
Sure.
ought to down the line.
Yeah, I mean, they have to pay money to put it all together.
But it shouldn't be a losing proposition.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. Because I just think, like I said, if a consumer is kind of coming into this saying, I'm doing this, because the alternative would be I got to go to the pump.
Yeah.
Well, people pay what at the pump
Right.
each and every time.
Right. But my issue is as someone who would have trouble charging my car,
Yeah.
I don't have
You-
to spend 5 hours.
I
at
get
the
you,
pump.
Connie. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You need a quick. You
Yeah.
need an alternative for a quick
Yeah.
charge.
Well, that was
Yeah,
sort of Bruce's
exactly.
original interest
Yes.
was like, how do we get more level 3 chargers, not just on the turnpike?
Right.
I gave
but
an example
available.
where, yeah.
Yeah,
But and then
available
Cassie
to
shared with us
people,
that
yeah.
the level 3s are significantly more money to install, like $80,000.
Jamie, why was I thinking that?
Yeah.
Apart from the residential use, which
Right.
where it makes zero sense.
Yes,
Sure.
right.
Everything
Yeah.
else should be level 3.
Yeah, but,
I
right.
just,
In the
use
future-
Turnpike as an example.
yes.
Because people aren't going to hang out for 9 hours.
No,
Right,
but in a
exactly.
future
They
where
go down the turnpike.
where
Exactly.
50% or more vehicles on the road are electric, which maybe not all that far off. Like you need that infrastructure
Absolutely.
available to people in more, many more locations. You need those the gas station right downtown. You need the one that's like on the way, to Northampton. You need whatever. Like,
And they got to be quick.
And
Right.
speaking of which, I don't know if
So-
you're aware of the fact that the charges at the school, the new school, are not hooked
They're
up
not even
because
on.
I know
they
they're
can't
not.
afford to.
Well,
They can't afford to.
No, this is what I understand. Because I asked about it.
Yeah,
Because I'm look right there. It's noticing they're being taped up.
yeah.
I said, why are these new charges taped up?
Because the school committee can't afford to subsidize them.
Right. So the answer I got was that it wasn't in this year's fiscal year budget.
I don't think it's going to be in next year's either if it's as
Well,
expensive as
maybe
as
not.
They get a
Nicole
grant for those? If they got a grant, that grant might
I
have to
don't
be
understand-
returned
I
to
don't
this,
understand
returned to
why-
the, excuse me, can I finish?
said. Yeah.
It will be returned to the people who gave us the money if we don't operate the
Right.
thing.
I
They
think
don't-
this is
but also I think the city should be responsible for them, not the poor schools. I think that
Six of
the
one, half a
city
dozen.
should,
Wow.
because I mean, I'm just saying, this, like, how many teachers would this pay for? I think it would be very difficult to rationalize using money to subsidize electric chargers for a school system.
How does the co-op do it?
I don't know.
No, that's a good example.
I would think that's.
well, I think it sounds like this
between
demand charge is
That's a good question.
it sounds like the demand charge is specific to municipalities. That's what the mayor said.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
understand
they're charging.
that.
Yeah, they're treating the municipalities as a separate customer
You are
class.
calling it a demand charge.
So, like, I think a business like River Valley is not subject to those
Oh, you
same.
think not?
I believe so. I think that's what the
Why
Dan
would they-
Carey legislature
Why would
is
they
designed.
really buck on the municipality?
Because they probably didn't
can.
want. I don't know. Maybe
They didn't
because
want-
like the
Yeah.
EverSource lobby
Because
was like,
this-
we don't want cities giving out free electricity.
There's a real large,
I don't know. I don't know.
It's
That's
always
pure
goes back to
conjecture.
the
That's
there's a
pure
real
conjecture.
large problem out there. Not really because of lack of supply, but we just took a trip to New York and give you an example. So you can go to some plazas and we're a charge point. We use the charge point
Yeah.
network, and I'll tell you where. So we go, and increasingly we're finding that the charges that are offline now because they're either broken or just. And one was a couple in front of a Whole Foods, as an example, just like our River Valley. So
Yeah.
they're thinking our customer base would probably appreciate
Right,
this
right.
and encourage them to go. So it makes business sense. They ain't fixing them because they, being the owners, are responsible for them, and they're not doing it.
That's
Right.
interesting.
And so that's
Well, just to the mayor's point, then too, about like she would love ChargePoint to come in and say, "Hey, we'll operate these for you. Like we'll run this for you, right? We'll take these over. We'll do the maintenance.
Right,
We'll do all that
exactly.
stuff, right?" Then that's what, and I'm sure the New York, Highway Authority, whoever's like running those at the rest stops or something like that is probably in the same boat, right? We don't want to do this. We'd rather.
Which makes sense because gas is sold by gas companies, not, it's a separate business when you get your gas wherever,
Right.
but on the highway. It
But
makes sense.
So we'll have to look into that. I mean, but I do think that's the issue here is that municipalities are on the hook for this.
I'd be curious to what Northampton does, because they have a bunch of them over there.
Right.
They grow into.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there must be some chat list among municipal
Well, apparently everyone's going to be in
station
Falmouth
managers
this week
that-
talking
that
about
goes-
this.
Huh?
So apparently everyone's going to be in Falmouth talking about this week. So
Yeah, that's the big focus. She said.
that's the
I
National
think
League of
MMA,
Cities.
is my guess, should be all over this.
Yeah.
And they probably are.
Yeah,
Right? 'Cause
yeah,
everyone's in the
yeah.
same boat.
Yeah,
Right.
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 Anybody know anything about microgrids?
A little bit.
General concept.
Yeah.
So I have to
Meeting.
go, but I
I
would
do
just like
too,
to
but-
invite our two
What were we gonna say about it?
visitors
though?
to
He's
join
not
our
finished.
committee. I just, because I have to go, I just want to, I'm sorry,
Okay.
but I have to
We'll
go.
wrap up in just.
I just wanted to
a
say
minute,
that.
But I did, what was your question about microgrids?
I was just curious, I just read an article about Chelsea, that they just formed a microgrid. I don't really know much about it, I just got curious.
Okay.
Well, they have the ability to. We can talk about that. Let's close the meeting. We can talk.
Yeah.
Oh,
all right.
sorry.
So that's right. Yeah.
I'm
I
still
I didn't get a update from Cassie on the Green Community Grant
Okay.
proposal. So we'll say that next time. There's not really a lot going on with that right now, anyway. So we're still closing out the previous one. New or other business potentially microgrids for a future conversation. I'll do some research on that. Anybody have anything else that we've overlooked so far?
I'm sorry, I just.
That's okay.
That's
No,
fine,
I
thanks.
have a
Thanks.
soccer practice in 10 minutes as well. So, all right. Then
No,
I do.
I'll mention it after we vote. to
Yes,
adjourn.
motion
Nothing
to
official.
motion to adjourn.
I motion we adjourn.
Motion second.
Jack.
Second. Do I have a second
Yes,
on the
yes.
motion? All right. Motion has been put in place
Aye.
and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.